the final speaker. Final speaker is Dr. Addison from FEP. Dr. Addison from FEP has extensive experience in rural development policy and coastal resources management. When he became the Director General of Department of Fisheries, Thailand in 2016, he initiated a policy of fishery reform, which include in terms of fisheries, aquaculture, and fish processing. In particularly in aquaculture, he aimed to improve the entire supply chain of Thai aquaculture to meet international standards in terms of its system, environmental friendly, hygiene, and sanitary to ensure that seafood product from Thailand has free from IUU fishing, forced labor, and trafficking through administrative manner, focusing on consumer and environment. So final speaker is from ASEAN member states. I'd like to ask Dr. Addison to take floor. Dr. Addison, you have 30 minutes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Is my sound okay?
Yeah, I can hear well.
Okay, put my presentation on. It seemed to me that Dr. Kamirari already mentioned a lot of activities from our region, a lot of achievement, and also still a lot of things that need to be done. However, I think we have a big challenge. So the topic is on the challenge on sustainable marine fishery management in Southeast Asia, and it's adaptation to the new normal or new norm after COVID-19. I think this is a very important aspect of fighting against IUU for our region. And COVID-19 is a global problem. And okay, and I think most of the government around the world is worried about economic crisis that come from COVID-19. So before I go on to that challenge, I will give some situation before the COVID-19. You can see from the chart, I think most of us already familiar with the chart, is that on the right-hand side, the yellow color is production from captive fishery. So, okay, and you can see that we reached the peak already. So we can maintain the production from marine captive fishery. And we have increased a lot from aquaculture. And the potential is going to be produced more and more from aquaculture, and try to keep the production from the marine capture fishery stable, not to decline. And if you look at the left-hand side, you can see that the production and the export. So you can see the many of the countries who produce also do a lot of export. So this is the situation. And when we see another slide, you can see that China is the one who produce and also export a lot. And our focus is on the Southeast or the Asia, especially Southeast Asia. we have big production and also a lot of export from there. And you can see that the US and Europe and Japan import a lot of fish and fishery products. So the next slide will show you the export country and the import country. So you can see the Thailand and Vietnam is a very big export from our region. So Southeast Asia is very important for the world as production country for the seafood and also the export for the seafood of the world. Now you can see the situation on COVID-19. Even though Southeast Asia have not have a very big problem there, we can contain a lot of the problem in a very good manner. Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, quite a bit big problem, but not out of control from my perspective. However, you can see the North America and South America, India, Europe, and Russia is a huge problem from COVID-19, and it affects the economics of the country and the world. So let's see what happened from the COVID-19. The fishing activities in the fishery communities on the coastal area, most of them slow down because most of the government have a lockdown policy, and people cannot go to the sea to do the fishing, or they have a logistic problem to carry the cash to the market or to the export. So they reduce their own fishing activities because no market, or they cannot send fish to the market. So all of that affects the supply chain, and also affects the consumer because they cannot have products as well. And if you can see that we also have digital disruption, this means the traditional marketing of the seafood products is changed. The consumer behavior start ordering fish and fish products from another source. So the market already disrupted. However, overall, you can see the economics of the world is changing and changing rapidly during the COVID-19, and it's still going to be changed in the future. So if you look at this, you can see the recovering of the fishery resources, because the fishing activity is reduced because the logistics to sending the fish to the market is reduced. So it sounds good in the term of natural resources. However, the pressure on the economics is become stronger now and in the future, because the income on the fishery sector and also the income in the general population is also going down. So people going to start demanding more of the fish for the food. The fishermen going to try to catch more fish to get higher income. And the government have to balance of that if they want to fight against IUU and achieve sustainable fishery. Because right now, the fishermen need to have more income and they will try to do everything and ignore the law, mainly on that, to have more fish to get a higher income. So I think the challenge in the future and during the COVID-19 crisis, or even after the COVID-19, even though we have vaccine, the problem of the economic crisis going to be continue for another year or two. So I borrowed a chart from the OECD study that showed the indicator that about how to achieve, how to fight IUU and achieve the sustainable fishery. You can see that the responsibility of the flag state, the coastal state, port state, and market state, and also the international cooperation and enforcement. All of this is already mentioned by Dr. Kamirari and Ms. Susan, Ms. Sarah, sorry. So you can see in the slides, the EU achievement is quite difficult to see. It's a gray part. So it's quite balanced on all of those indicators. And for Thailand, we are very strong on the port state measure, but it's quite low on the flag state, international cooperation, and the market state. So the next slide. My point is that how to balance between fighting against IUU and try to achieve sustainable fishery and respond to the pressure from the economics, the market, from the COVID-19, the problem of trying to achieve that. The one thing that Dr. Kamirari already mentioned is a strong political will. I give the example. 4 years ago, Thailand have a very strong political will to fight against IUU. So at that time, we got a Euro card from the European Union. So we changed our activities in everything. However, now, do we still have a strong political will to fight against IUU and achieve sustainable fishery? How the government of Southeast Asia, or maybe the government around the world, going to balance between fighting against IUU and try to achieve sustainable fishery and try to recover from the impact of the COVID-19 and economic crisis. So this is my conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kromthep. And I think everybody fighting for IUU fishing quite long time, and since the implementation of the EU regulation 2010, and I think each country have some achievement, but because of COVID-19 right now, and then just the story bit changed, and we have to focus on more people-oriented, maybe, or plus industry-oriented. So industry means export and import, maybe we have to consider, and internal issue also. But we have, in Southeast Asia, we have so many small-scale fisheries. So many people depends on the fishery industries with a small income. So we have to focus on those people also. So maybe I ask from the Dr. Warabit question first to the Dr. Addison. What we need to focus on in ASEAN member states to combat IUU fishing?
I think my answer is the same with my previous speaker, cooperation, our regional cooperation. And I think we need a strong political will to fight against IUU and strong political will to cooperate between the country. It's not one country problem. It's a global problem, so we have to do it together. And I think we should start to have not talk. The cooperation means the activities, the real work. And our ASEAN have done many projects that SEAFDEC already mentioned. So why don't we use that and put together and try to work from there? Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, we SEAFDEC happy to facilitate the discussion, and we can provide the information, but quite often SEAFDEC can do is just show the option to each member states, and we ask member states to decide which way is the best for region and also sustainable fisheries. So 3 speakers already mentioned cooperation is important, and that's real challenge, will be a real challenge for SEAFDEC and ASEAN member states. So from all three speakers, if you have any additional thought or comment, if you have, and I would like to accept from all three speakers, and plus SEAFDEC Secretariat also. Do you have any comments? No? Oh, okay. Dr. Camarelli, could you? Oh, could you mute? I have to mute. Oops.
Yes, I think now you can hear me, yes.
Yep.
I'd just like to add a comment about capacity development. I know that SEAFDEC is very much involved in providing training to various countries in the region. And there are many other actors providing support to countries, either states or other intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, many people. So there's a lot of support being provided. And we would just like to call for making this more efficient, because sometimes we find that there's always this request for training. Of course, training is important. But training upon training upon training by FAO, and then somebody else comes in to do the same training, and then the EU is there, and then the World Bank project. All this needs to be put into a harmonized approach to make sure that it's not only a tick in the box, a course has been done. How does that training improve the implementation of the country? Now, if that training, as I said in my presentation, is not linked to the correct provisions in the legislation for those being trained to do their job, or you may have a fantastic fisheries monitoring center but then you're detecting IU fishing and you do not have the processes in place or the capacity to take action, you see, all of these things need to be put together. Now, there's also, of course, the issue of being efficient. We cannot continue to spend resources, time, money on the same thing over and over again. So one of the initiatives that FAO has ongoing at the moment, and we hope that we can finalize this by the end of this year, it is a capacity development portal. It is a database, a global database on all the initiatives that are taking place on capacity development by country. It's an initiative funded by the European Union. And the idea is that all those entities providing support to countries will register their program, their capacity development program in some detail in this database. So very shortly, we will be launching a trial period, and hopefully this will enable and provide information on all the capacity development initiatives that are taking place. It would help donors to be able to prioritize where to put that extra money, so that there's clearly a lot of training of inspectors that has taken place. A new donor knows that they do not need to support that. But it also helps countries understand the possibilities, the opportunities for capacity development. And so we hope that this portal will also provide an additional tool for a region like Southeast Asia, where there's a lot of capacity development, to organize this program. Yes, so this is it. You know, capacity development needs to be followed up by a commitment in the country. Many times we find that we have a project, we come in with a project, the country is engaged, it's willing, the project finishes, and then there's no sustainability of what has been created. And it is not a question of FAO or other entities coming into the country and insisting or trying to push for some capacity development to take place. It has to be requested by the country. The country needs to understand the needs. And this is why in our approach, we always start off with a joint needs assessment of the country with all its agencies, relevant agencies, so that we can have a proper work plan for capacity development. So I'll stop there. I thought that this was important, since we know that you know, capacity development is also at the heart of what SEAFDEC stands for.
I think SEAFDEC Secretariat or TD Training Department can some organize or training so far they have done, and what instrument they have right now, and how far we went in each member state, and that kind of thorough information I think we can organize now. Yeah. And since I'm from fishery management department, and we are more trying to get some basic doing stock assessment, and we try to use the best available scientific knowledge, but quite often those information is not available. I mean, we have to start from the basic catch data and catch effort data for a particular species, but quite often many fisheries here, for example, purseine, we focus on some species, but we catch multiple species all the time, and then we have to do we cannot do any single species stock assessment, and we have to develop new technique to evaluate those multiple species, and those scientific area are also challenging, but we have to maintain our resources, so we keep working on those, and many helping organizations, they feel we don't have data, but we are living in tropics. It's challenging area for all biologists also. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, time is running out, but I would ask each speaker to give the 1 minute last thought. And I go from the opposite direction. I'll ask from the Dr. Addison first, and Sarah next, and Dr. Matthew is the last one for 1 minute final thought. Dr. Addison, please.
Thank you. So I just would like to support Dr. Matthew. The capacity building is very important. However, he also mentioned that how to make the use of the capacity in a sustainable way and effective way. From my experience, the strong political will is very important, how to drive it through. So in Thailand, we do a lot of training, set up a good excellence center. For example, vessel monitoring center, port in, port out center. But when we have our dialogue with the EU and we have the inspector helping to check what we've done, we found that we're not using that effectively. So on the job training and will to enforce the law, enforce the measure that we put it through, is the most important thing. So that's why I say the cooperation among the country, between the country to make it work is the most important thing that we can do. If we do it alone, we think we do good things, but sometimes it's not. and this is, I think it's very important, is we need to go practical. And right now, what I'm worried is that the government, most of the government concerned about economics. And they're going to have very weak political will to enforce the law to fight against IUU and try to use our fishery resources for economics benefit instead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Sarah, could you give final thought?
Okay, yes, thank you very much. Well, I absolutely agree with Dr. Camilleri has said and Dr. Addison. I think capacity building is very important, but this has to be translated into real implementation and real outcome. And as Dr. Addison has mentioned several times, for this, political engagement is crucial. And in our experience, this implies, in the first place, to adopt solid and comprehensive legislation. That's the first step. And this legislation has to include a sanctioning system that provides a legal basis to impose sanctions that are high enough to discourage the IUU fishing. So I think this the implementation starts in having a good legal basis to implement all the measures, and then to in this legal basis establish all the control, monitoring, control, and surveillance measures. So that's my message. That I stress the importance of the political engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah. And finally, I'd like to ask Dr. Camariel to give a final thought.
Thank you very much. I won't be too long. I've intervened earlier. I'd just like to thank SEAFDEC for organizing this again. I think that the mechanisms are there, as I said. The commitment has been demonstrated with the participation in this seminar, the numerous initiatives that are undertaken at sub-regional level, and I think it is just a question of taking it up a notch to have that effectiveness of the implementation, making it more effective, so that there is this real deterrence. We talk of deterring and eliminating eventually IUU fishing. But first we need to get effective to deter that. So yeah, with that, I'd just like to thank all the attention from all the participants and SEAFDEC once again. FAO stands ready to continue to cooperate with SEAFDEC, with other regional entities, and all players and actors in the region. It is a highly productive region for fisheries. It does not only produce fish for its own region, but many other areas of the world depend on what happens in Southeast Asia. So with that, we need to give due attention to this region so that we can eliminate IUU fishing, which really undermines all efforts to have sustainable fisheries.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all three speakers. And our discussion will continue tomorrow at the same time. And so, anybody want to participate, please do so tomorrow. And thank you very much, and see you again.